The unthinkable just happened. Mexico, America's closest neighbor and most crucial trading partner, just delivered a geopolitical earthquake that nobody in Washington saw coming. While politicians were busy debating border walls and immigration policies, Mexico quietly made a move that could reshape the entire global order. They didn't just knock on BRICS' door. They walked straight through it. And the silence from the White House? Deafening. This isn't about trade disputes or diplomatic disagreements anymore. This is about Mexico fundamentally rewiring its future away from the United States and toward the world's fastest-growing economic bloc. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa just gained their most strategically valuable member yet, a country that shares a 2,000-mile border with the United States, a nation that processes over $700 billion in annual trade with America. And now, they're playing for the other team. The timing couldn't be more devastating for Washington. Just as the U.S. was banking on Mexico's continued dependence, Mexico chose independence, and the ripple effects are already tearing through every sector of the American economy. From automotive supply chains to energy infrastructure, from agricultural exports to manufacturing hubs, nothing will be the same. Mexico didn't just join BRICS, they handed America's competitors the keys to North America's back door. Here's what the mainstream media won't tell you. This decision wasn't made overnight. Mexico has been quietly building relationships with BRICS nations for months, securing investment deals, technology partnerships, and alternative trade routes that bypass American influence entirely. While Washington assumed loyalty based on geography, Mexico was calculating leverage based on opportunity. And the opportunity they found? Staggering. China alone has pledged $50 billion in infrastructure investment across Mexico's Pacific coast. Russia is offering energy partnerships that could revolutionize Mexico's oil and gas sector. India is opening manufacturing corridors that directly compete with American factories. Brazil is extending agricultural cooperation that threatens U.S. food exports. And South Africa is providing mining technology that could unlock Mexico's vast mineral wealth without American oversight. But here's the most shocking part. Mexico's BRICS membership isn't just an economic play, it's a strategic masterstroke designed to neutralize American pressure permanently. For decades, the United States has used economic leverage to influence Mexican policy. Trade threats, investment restrictions, diplomatic isolation. All tools that worked when Mexico had nowhere else to turn. Those days are over. BRICS just handed Mexico something Washington never could: true economic sovereignty. No more dependence on American markets. No more vulnerability to American sanctions. No more bending to American demands. Mexico now has access to a trading bloc that represents over 40% of the global population and nearly 25% of world GDP. They don't need America anymore. They chose not to need America anymore. The automotive industry is already in panic mode. Mexico produces over 4 million vehicles annually, with 80% traditionally destined for American markets. But BRICS membership opens Asian and European corridors that could redirect those exports overnight. Chinese automakers are already negotiating production facilities in Tijuana and Monterrey, not to serve American consumers, but to serve global markets that don't include the United States. Energy independence is next. Mexico's newly discovered lithium deposits, essential for battery production, were supposed to strengthen North American supply chains. Instead, China's state-owned enterprises are positioning for exclusive extraction rights. The lithium that was meant to power American electric vehicles could soon be flowing to Shanghai and Shenzhen. America's green energy transition just became dependent on Mexico's goodwill, and that goodwill is rapidly evaporating. Manufacturing is facing an exodus. American companies that relocated to Mexico for cheap labor and proximity to U.S. markets are now discovering their Mexican partners have better offers from BRICS nations. Indian textile giants are outbidding American firms for production capacity. Brazilian steel companies are securing long-term contracts that were once American monopolies. Russian energy firms are providing power at rates that undercut American suppliers. The agricultural sector is witnessing a revolution. Mexico's food exports to the United States, worth over $30 billion annually, are being systematically redirected toward BRICS markets. Chinese importers are paying premium prices for Mexican avocados, strawberries, and tomatoes. Indian spice traders are establishing processing facilities that compete directly with American food distributors. Brazilian agricultural technology is increasing Mexican crop yields while reducing dependence on American seeds and fertilizers. But the real devastation is in financial markets. Mexico's decision to join BRICS signals something far more dangerous than trade realignment. It signals the beginning of de-dollarization on America's doorstep. BRICS nations are actively developing alternative payment systems that bypass the U.S. dollar entirely. Mexico's participation could accelerate this process exponentially. Imagine cross-border trade between Mexico and the United States conducted in yuan instead of dollars. Imagine Mexican oil exports priced in rubles or rupees. Imagine American companies forced to hold foreign currencies just to maintain operations in their neighboring country. The dollar's dominance, the foundation of American economic power, is under direct assault from America's third-largest trading partner. Wall Street is beginning to understand the implications. Mexican peso strength against the dollar has surged 15% since BRICS membership discussions began. Foreign investment in Mexican infrastructure projects has doubled. International banks are opening new branches in Mexico City to handle BRICS-denominated transactions. The financial center of North America is shifting south, and American banks are being left behind. The technology sector faces an entirely new competitive landscape. Mexico's BRICS membership grants access to Chinese 5G networks, Russian cybersecurity systems, and Indian software development capabilities. American tech companies that dominated Mexican markets for decades are suddenly competing against state-sponsored alternatives that offer better terms and fewer restrictions. Immigration patterns are already reversing. Skilled Mexican workers who traditionally sought opportunities in the United States are now finding them at home through BRICS investment and partnerships. Engineering graduates are joining Chinese infrastructure projects. Financial analysts are working for Indian consulting firms. Software developers are building applications for Russian clients. The brain drain that benefited America for generations is stopping and potentially reversing. Mexico's military cooperation with BRICS nations represents perhaps the most alarming development for American security planners. Joint training exercises with Russian forces, intelligence sharing agreements with Chinese agencies, arms purchases from Indian manufacturers. Brazil's defense contractors establishing production facilities on America's border. The Monroe Doctrine, America's centuries-old claim to hemispheric dominance, is crumbling in real time. Regional leadership dynamics are shifting dramatically. Mexico's BRICS membership elevates its status among Latin American nations to a level that rivals American influence. Countries throughout Central and South America are watching Mexico's success with BRICS partnerships and reconsidering their own relationships with Washington. The domino effect could be catastrophic for American interests throughout the hemisphere. What makes this crisis even more acute is Washington's complete inability to respond effectively. Traditional leverage mechanisms don't work when your target has alternative options. Threatening trade sanctions loses impact when your neighbor has access to the world's largest trading bloc. Diplomatic pressure becomes meaningless when your rival has the backing of global superpowers. The Biden administration's response has been a mixture of denial, confusion, and desperate damage control. Public statements downplaying Mexico's BRICS membership, while private diplomatic channels work frantically to offer counter-incentives. But the offers are coming too late and falling too short. Mexico has already seen the future, and America isn't in it. Congressional leaders are demanding investigations into how this happened without American intelligence detecting it. But the reality is simpler and more devastating than intelligence failure. America's neighbors have been watching American foreign policy for years and drawing their own conclusions about reliability, partnership, and respect. Mexico's BRICS membership is the verdict, and it's damning. Business leaders across America are scrambling to understand what this means for their operations. Supply chain managers are frantically seeking alternative sources for Mexican imports. Export coordinators are worried about losing access to Mexican markets. Investment advisors are questioning whether American companies should continue expanding Mexican operations when those operations could be cut off at any moment. The pharmaceutical industry is particularly vulnerable. Mexico produces generic medications that supply American hospitals and pharmacies. BRICS membership could redirect those supplies toward member nations, creating shortages and price spikes across American healthcare systems. Life-saving medications could become bargaining chips in a geopolitical game that America is losing. Energy security concerns are multiplying rapidly. Mexico's oil exports to American refineries could be redirected toward Chinese and Indian markets that offer better prices and fewer political conditions. Natural gas pipelines that have supplied American power grids for decades could suddenly prioritize BRICS customers willing to pay premium rates. Solar panel manufacturing, once dominated by American-Mexican partnerships, is shifting toward Chinese technology and Indian financing that leaves American companies completely out of the equation. The timeline for this transformation is accelerating beyond anyone's worst projections. What intelligence analysts initially predicted would take years to implement is happening in months. BRICS infrastructure investments are breaking ground ahead of schedule. Trade agreements are being finalized at record speed. Financial systems are being integrated faster than American policymakers can comprehend, let alone counter. Mexico's ports are being rapidly upgraded to handle increased Asian shipping traffic. The port of Manzanillo is expanding capacity specifically for Chinese cargo vessels. Veracruz is installing Russian-designed loading equipment. Tampico is preparing new berths for Indian container ships. These aren't just infrastructure improvements, they're strategic repositioning for a post-American trade future. The cultural implications run deeper than economics. Mexico's younger generation is learning Mandarin at unprecedented rates. Russian cultural centers are opening in major Mexican cities. Indian Bollywood films are gaining popularity over Hollywood productions. Brazil's music and entertainment industry is establishing Mexican distribution networks. The soft power that America has wielded for generations is being systematically replaced by BRICS alternatives. Educational exchanges are reshaping Mexico's intellectual landscape. Chinese universities are offering full scholarships to Mexican students in engineering and technology. Russian institutions are providing advanced degrees in energy and mining. Indian schools are training Mexican software developers and financial analysts. Brazilian agricultural colleges are teaching sustainable farming techniques that reduce dependence on American equipment and methods. Mexico's political establishment is embracing this transformation with remarkable unity. Opposition parties that typically disagree on everything are aligned on BRICS membership benefits. Regional governors are competing to attract BRICS investment to their states. Municipal leaders are proudly announcing sister city agreements with BRICS capitals. The political consensus is clear. Mexico's future lies with the global South, not the global North. American diplomatic efforts to reverse this trend are failing spectacularly. Embassy officials report that their Mexican counterparts are politely but firmly rejecting American proposals for renewed cooperation. Trade delegations are returning to Washington empty-handed. High-level meetings that once produced agreements are now producing only diplomatic pleasantries and non-committal responses. The most terrifying aspect of Mexico's BRICS membership isn't what's happening now, it's what comes next. This decision opens pathways for other American neighbors to follow suit. Canada is already exploring closer ties with BRICS nations. Central American countries are watching Mexico's success with obvious interest. The Caribbean islands are quietly assessing their own options for reducing American dependence. Financial markets are beginning to price in a reality that political leaders refuse to acknowledge. The American empire, built on economic dominance and regional control, is facing its first serious challenge from within its own sphere of influence. Mexico's defection isn't just about one country changing sides. It's about the entire foundation of American power being questioned by America's closest allies. Intelligence reports suggest this is only the beginning. BRICS leadership views Mexico's membership as a strategic breakthrough that validates their alternative world order model. Success in Mexico provides a template for approaching other American allies with similar offers. The Philippines, Thailand, even NATO members in Eastern Europe are reportedly receiving BRICS overtures that mirror the Mexican approach. So here's the question that keeps Washington strategists awake at night. If Mexico, America's third largest trading partner and immediate neighbor, can successfully pivot toward BRICS, what does that mean for American global leadership? If economic leverage, geographic proximity, and historical ties aren't enough to maintain loyalty, what tools does America have left? The answer is becoming increasingly clear and increasingly terrifying for American policymakers. In a multipolar world where alternatives to American partnership exist, loyalty becomes optional. Countries will choose the option that serves their interest best, regardless of American preferences or pressure. Mexico just proved that America is no longer the only option, and may not even be the best option. This is Mexico's declaration of independence from American economic colonialism. It's BRICS's most significant victory in challenging Western dominance. And it's Washington's worst nightmare realized, the moment when America's neighbors stopped asking for permission and started making their own choices. The question now isn't whether other countries will follow Mexico's lead. It's how quickly they'll move and how much of America's influence they'll take with them. The unthinkable has become inevitable. America's backyard is no longer American, and there's nothing Washington can do to change it.